So let me show you a little bit about how I'd recommend analysing exam papers. This one happens to be paper 1 of OCR A-level PE, but it could be anything at Excel GCSE, BTEC First Award, Unit 1, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. So what we do first of all is we create what you might call a raw tab, and that is every question in order, one after the other. For example, this is the first question on the Summer 8 2018 paper, the first question ever asked on this specification actually. And you see here we've got the shot of the actual question, we've got the marks, we've got the skill, we've got the split of the AOs, and in here we've got the mark scheme. Now this won't be super clear, but if I blow it up, obviously we've actually got the content of the mark scheme there. And we also know that its main specification point is exercises at altitude. So we can then start to analyze that, and I'll show you how we go about doing that. Let's imagine that I was writing some kind of content on, I don't know, angular momentum or something like that. I could select that content, and what I've got now is I've got every question that's been asked so far on that particular content. I've got the graph, how those marks can either be distributed from A01 to A03, but crucially, I've got the exact exam language that will be accepted for this course. Now, one of the first things we'll then do is we will then form that exam language into this document. Now, this is the whole of OCR Biomechanics for A-level, but if I was to scoot down to sort of that kind of middle of the course where we're actually doing angular momentum, it should be about here, you'll see now that this is the exact language and content from those mark schemes, okay? So this content here, didn't mean to do that, this content here is the exact content of those mark schemes all the way down to this point. So we can be really confident in the preparation of any exam question, any resource, any video, any teaching episode, any revision, any CPD, whatever it happens to be. This is absolutely critically accurate for this particular course. Now, the other thing that I would stress about analysis is you want to analyse more than content. So absolutely critical from my perspective are these columns here, effectively where this comes from. Because if I now go into a summary of the skill, what I'd like you to recognise is that on a paper 1, students are going to do a lot of identifying, a bit of some other stuff. They're going to be doing a lot of describing, they're going to be doing a lot of explaining, and they're going to be doing a lot of evaluating. At the heart of it, that is the target of their assessment. That's what they've got to do. So of course, the classroom needs to be defined by these particular behaviours and skills also. We can also look at the kind of the range of marks that tend to be asked. We can see that there's a huge number of marks available for 4 markers, for example. For 3 markers, there's lots and lots of marks there, so we want to be able to address that. We can then also, of course, get into the actual content itself and say, okay, what has been sort of significantly asked in the past? So we know, for example, that we've got 20 marks on a 20 marker in 2020 that was asked on muscle fibre types, say. But we can also see whether there's any kind of gaps here. We've never had pharmacological aid that have been asked, for example. We've never had aerobic training that's been asked. We've never had factors affecting strength. These you could describe as due, I suppose. And then finally, what we can do is we can really get to grips with the paper. Now, this happens to be the summer 2021, but if I maybe go back to summer 2018, if I want to prepare any kind of mark or I want to analyse the paper, can you see how this now shows me exactly how this question, how this paper structure is actually formulated? The marks per question, the distribution of AOs, and the sort of the rhythm of topics. Of course, in here we're going to have an applied AMP, we're going to have exercise physiology, we're going to have biomechanics, and then we're going to have our 20 marker. But I can really get to grips with what's going on with those particular questions, whether it's from 2020 or whatever it happens to be. So that's how I would argue, as a minimum, that people are going about analysing their courses. It's a really, really, really useful process. It does take a bit of time to produce it, but once you have it, you have power in your hands.